You get home after being around people. Nothing dramatic happened, no conflict, no awkward moment worth replaying. And yet, you feel it, that quiet kind of exhaustion. You sit down, maybe scroll a little, maybe just stare at nothing. And it's not that you had a bad time, you just feel drained. If you've ever wondered why socializing can leave you feeling depleted, even when you enjoy it, this is about you. This tends to show up in people who are socially aware, emotionally tuned in, and a little more internally active than they let on. You probably noticed this. You can be fully present with others, engaged, responsive, even warm. But afterward, something in you needs to shut off. Not because you dislike people, because your system needs to recover. On the surface, it might seem like you're just introverted, or that you simply need more alone time than others. You might think it's about social preference, but that's rarely the full story. What's often happening underneath is a kind of invisible cognitive and emotional load you carry while interacting. This is where it becomes uncomfortable, because part of what drains you is how much of yourself you're managing in real time. You're not just talking, you're tracking. Tone, facial expressions, timing, what to say, what not to say. And that's often the part that stings. This doesn't mean you're overly sensitive or fragile. It means your awareness is active. And many people respond this way when their attention is constantly scanning both the room and themselves. This pattern is more common than we admit, especially now. We live in a culture where you're rarely off. Messages come in all day. Conversations continue online after they end in person. There's an unspoken pressure to respond, react, stay engaged. Even silence feels noticeable, so your system adapted. It learned to stay socially on for longer than it naturally wants to. And over time, that creates a kind of background fatigue. Your nervous system doesn't always get a clean break. You probably notice this shows up beyond in-person interactions too. A long group chat can feel tiring. Video calls feel heavier than they should. Even replying to messages can feel like a small task you keep postponing. You know the feeling. It lingers. There's actually a term that comes close to this: cognitive load. It's the amount of mental effort your brain is using at any given time. And during social interaction, your brain tends to do more than you realize. It's processing words, reading nonverbal cues, adjusting your responses, and monitoring how you're coming across, all at once. For some people, this happens automatically and lightly. For you, it might run a bit deeper, which means the same conversation costs more energy. You tend to replay moments afterward. You think about what you said. You notice small details others forget. And while that awareness can make you thoughtful and perceptive, it also builds up, quietly. There's another layer here. Psychologists sometimes refer to something called self-monitoring. It's your ability to adjust how you present yourself depending on the situation. High self-monitoring can be useful. It helps you adapt socially. But it also means you're rarely just off script. You might find yourself subtly adjusting your tone depending on who you're with, holding back certain opinions, choosing your words carefully, even when you're being genuine. And that takes energy. Here's the part people don't usually see. You're not just reacting to others, you're also managing how much of yourself to reveal. Moment by moment, it's like running multiple tabs in your mind while trying to stay present in the conversation. And eventually, something slows down. But here's where it becomes complicated. The very thing that makes you socially aware is also what makes socializing tiring. You pick up on nuances others miss. You feel subtle shifts in tone. You notice when something feels slightly off. And even if you don't consciously react to it, your system does. That constant processing can feel like background noise that never fully switches off. And after a while, your body asks for silence. Not because you're antisocial, but because you're overstimulated. Social exhaustion and social dislike are not the same thing. A simple way to tell the difference is this. After spending time with people, do you feel emotionally disconnected or just mentally full? If you feel disconnected, something in the interaction didn't land. But if you feel full, like your mind has been on for too long, that's stimulation fatigue. Picture this. You're with people you genuinely like. The conversation is good. You're laughing, engaged. But after a couple of hours, something shifts. Not outwardly, internally. Your responses get shorter, you listen more than you speak. You start thinking about going home, not because you want to leave them, because you need to return to yourself. It's like your mind has reached its processing limit for the day. Too many tabs open, not enough quiet to close them. You know the feeling. There's a simple way to describe it. Your brain isn't rejecting people, it's requesting recovery. And that's an important distinction, because without that understanding, it's easy to mislabel yourself, to think you're bad at socializing, or that something is wrong with you. You're not broken. Your system adapted to handle a lot of input, and it does it well. But it can become limiting when you ignore the recovery part, when you push through exhaustion, when you override that quiet signal that says, "That's enough for now." Over time, that can turn into avoidance. Not because you don't want a connection, because your brain associates it with fatigue. And that's where the pattern starts to shift. But the fact that you're aware of this already says something. You notice your internal state. You can feel when something is off. That awareness matters. It means you're not disconnected from yourself. You're just operating in an environment that asks for more output than your system naturally prefers. And maybe that's the quiet reframe here. Feeling drained after socializing doesn't mean you don't like people. It means you engage deeply. It means your mind processes more than it shows. It means your system needs space to reset after being on. That's not a flaw. That's sensitivity paired with awareness. And in a world that rarely slows down, that combination can feel heavier than it should. But it's also what allows you to notice things others overlook, to listen carefully, to respond thoughtfully. You don't need to become someone who's always energized by people. You're someone who knows the value of returning to quiet, and that balance matters more than constant interaction. I'd be curious how this shows up for you, whether it's after conversations, group settings, or even just a long day of messages. If this kind of psychology resonates with you, there's more to explore here. Different topic, same depth. I'll see you in the next one.